And my argument would actually be that it is a universal story, that we can take it literally, that the boy literally leaves Spain and goes to Egypt, but we can also take everything symbolically.
Welcome to the Stories Cafe podcast, the espresso version of Stories Cafe, offering quick, enriching moments of reflection on literature, cinema, archetypes, philosophy, and the art of living deliberately. Just like a perfectly crafted espresso at a Parisian cafe, each episode is a brief pause for you to submerge yourself in something invigorating and fulfilling. I'm Annette Wernblad, course creator, internationally published author, and wanderer at heart. So cozy up as we explore the powerful world of stories, how they shape our lives, and teach us the art of living deliberately.
Our topic for today is The Alchemist, the amazing book by Paulo Coelho. And I know that some of you have read the book before and love the book. And when you go through the book, you sort of get caught up in the hero's journey, the plot of the story, as we tend to do when we read novels or watch movies. But the point is to stop and stay with those quotations a little bit longer and reflect on them, exploring them and reflecting on what is it actually they are telling us and what this book is teaching us. How does that apply to our own lives? So the very first thing that we're going to look at is the hero's journey as the basis of this book. The story is about a boy called Santiago who lives in Andalusia in the south of Spain. And he is a shepherd, and all through the book he is called the boy. And the boy is actually a strange name for him because we hear that he has known women, he drinks wine, and he smokes. So I don't know exactly how old he is. I think the point of calling him the boy is that is a standard feature of the hero's journey, the whole concept, that the person going through it is slightly younger and ready to examine and explore things. We hear the story of what he really wants is to be free and to travel. So we already have the archetype of the wanderer right from the start. So Santiago stops at an abandoned church where there's a tree growing through the church. It's obviously been abandoned for a long time. And he has a dream twice. And in that dream, a child appears and tells him that there is a buried treasure waiting for him and that the treasure is in Egypt by the pyramids. So he's on his way to a village to sell wool from his sheep, and he feels a very deep connection with his sheep. And in that village, there is a merchant who has a daughter. And last time he was there, he was very fascinated by that girl. But he decides to stop and consult an old woman who's supposed to be a seer, and she tells him that if he finds the treasure, she will want 10% of whatever he finds for helping him, for interpreting his dream. And then she just tells him that the dream means what it says, that there is a treasure and he should go and find it in Egypt. And he feels a little bit cheated. So he goes and sits at the town square by the fountain. And then he meets an old man who tells him that he is the king of Salem. And he knows everything the old woman has said. And the boy thinks that the two are in cahoots, because then the old man tells him that I'm going to give you some advice and you have to give me 10% of your sheep right now before me doing that. And the boy thinks, oh, they're just trying to con me out of money and out of my sheep. But then the king of Salem, he starts telling him that there's something called a personal legend, that we all have a personal legend, that we have to set out and try to find out what our personal legend is. And it's the most important thing we can do. Also, the old man gives him two stones, a white stone and a black stone. Some of you may think of John Locke in Lost. And he tells them that they have names, and that if you're ever in doubt along the journey, if you go out to find your personal legend and go to Egypt to find your treasure, you can always ask the stones, and the black stone means yes, and the white stone means no. But you shouldn't consult them more than you have to, because you have to get used to relying on your own intuition and to see the omens that are in front of you. So he finally decides to go on that journey, and he's in doubts, as the hero always is at the onset. Should he stay with his beloved sheep and to meet the merchant's daughter and pray that she remembers him, or should he give up his sheep and go out on his adventure? So he decides to sell his sheep, and he goes across the strait to Africa. And as soon as he arrives, he runs into a boy who steals all his money. So all the money he got from the sheep, everything is gone. So now he's in a strange land where everybody's Arabs and he doesn't speak the language and he doesn't understand anything. He doesn't know what to do. So he meets a man who's a crystal merchant, and he starts working for that man. And that man is actually very kind to him. And the boy teaches the man a lot of tricks. How can you make more money as a crystal merchant? Because he doesn't have any customers. The shop is a little bit dirty. So the boy starts cleaning everything up and polishing the crystal and making a really nice window, and people come in and start buying. And then he creates a tea stand where he serves tea in crystal cups. So he ends up staying there for a year. And by the end of that year, the crystal merchant is actually a much wealthier man than he was before. And the boy, he's now made enough money working for the crystal merchant that he can go back to Spain and buy twice the amount of sheep he had before. So the temptation again is, should I go back where it's comfortable and safe, or should I continue toward finding the treasure and figuring out what my personal legend is? So there is a caravan that is going through the desert, because between Tangier and Egypt is a vast desert. There's no way he can go through that desert by himself without dying. So he decides to join the caravan, and he meets a character called the Englishman. And the Englishman has read a lot of books about alchemy, and he wants to stop at an oasis where he's supposed to meet the alchemist, because he wants to know the final steps of alchemy that he hasn't been able to learn from the books. So halfway through the desert, they come to an oasis, and because there's a tribal war in the area, they're forced to stay at the oasis longer than they expected. So the boy meets Fatima, who, as soon as he sees her, he knows that she's the love of his life, and she is his soulmate. And he also meets the alchemist in the oasis. And strangely enough, because the Englishman came to meet the alchemist is more interested in the boy. So now the boy again is torn. Now he's sort of torn three ways: go back to Spain, stay at the oasis, or move on his personal legend toward finding his treasure. At the very last minute, again, he decides to continue on his journey. He finally reaches the pyramids. And again, everything he has is stolen from him. It happens 3 times, as in all good fairy tales, that everything he owns is taken from him. And as he's kneeling and trying to dig to find his treasure, again, he is robbed. And he says, well, I am here to find my personal treasure. And the guy who robs him says to him, oh, you were so naive. You're not going to find your treasure, because there is no treasure. You're so naive to even set out on this journey. Because a few years ago, I had a dream that there was a treasure waiting for me in an abandoned church with a tree growing through it in Spain. But I'm not stupid enough that I'm going to give up everything and go out to see if the treasure is actually in Andalusia in that abandoned church. So the boy realizes that the treasure he's been looking for is not buried in front of the pyramids, that the treasure is actually buried under the abandoned church in Andalusia where he had the dream. So he goes home, he finds the treasure, he goes to the gypsy woman to give her 10% as he promised her, and then he plans on going back to the oasis to the woman he loves. So that's the story. That's the steps of the hero's journey. And my argument would actually be that it is a universal story, that we can take it literally, that the boy literally leaves Spain and goes to Egypt, but we can also take everything symbolically. So we're going to go into the wisdom of this story. What is it actually that it's telling us?
Next week,
I want to look at some of the characters he meets and some of the things they tell the boy, because that's where the real wisdom is.
thank you so much for joining me. I hope you enjoyed your espresso break and learned something new. If you're eager to dive deeper into the world of stories and ideas, be sure to hit the follow button in Spotify or the plus button in Apple Podcasts so that you get each new episode straight to your podcast app. You can also visit us at Stories Cafe. Just go to stories-cafe.com. There you can explore free content for a taste of what we offer, or if you're ready for more, a paid membership unlocks in-depth discussions, full access to our archives, and a vibrant community of fellow story enthusiasts. I am so thrilled to have you here, and I look forward to welcoming you back to the Stories Cafe soon.